thanks to all those who've been able to join us in our very first session in the Leader Renew group. The group has been in existence, and this is the third year of existence. First year, we followed what the Lean In community asked us to do, sessions that they had recommended and prescribed. Last year, we tried to do monthly themes wherein we used to post a video and then we used to talk about that video throughout the month through intriguing questions. These were all topics related to women, how they hold themselves back, what kinds of experiences they have at the workplace, etc. This year, we are going to try and do something different, primarily with the intent of encouraging women leaders to read more, to build and hone their skill and share as we go along. The idea is also, I know I'm doing this first one so that we get warmed up. The idea is also to, from the next session, if any one of you can volunteer to do a debrief of the entire book that you've read, and you can choose how you want to do it, through Q&As, through games. I have a PowerPoint pack and you can choose to do it exactly the way you choose to. So we can have those discussions if you're interested in presenting whichever book we pick up for Feb. I had also posted in the group, only Joe has recommended a book. I love that book. And if we don't get any further recommendations, we will go with it. My intent was, if people can recommend, we can do a voting. But then if there are no further recommendations, we will go and announce the book for February as the one that Joe has recommended, and we will go forward with it. Yeah. Is there anyone here who doesn't know me? Seema, welcome. Have we interacted earlier, Seema?
I don't think so.
Okay, then let me do my introduction also. Yeah, because the other names are familiar, so I'm sure they are aware about me. So I am Shanti Sharma. I founded Grow with Satori about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now. Very happy to be in the third year with some of my very good colleagues who are also there in the call. I am a Tamilian, born in Nagpur, brought up in Delhi, married into a Rajasthani Sharma. By profession, I'm a learning and development person. 28 years in learning and development, apart from the first 6 months where I did coding, hard to believe myself. But I have done a certificate called a Certified Learning and Development Manager. I am an ICF certified PCC coach. I am an NLP practitioner. I am a senior practitioner from EMCC. I am a student of transactional analysis, though this year I've given a gap, and until June I won't be going back to transactional analysis because there is so much on my plate already. But then I will continue my journey with transactional analysis. On a personal front, I've done the Oxfam 100-kilometer walk twice. One for the causes of women-related causes, the other one was for persons with disabilities. I also used to teach at the Bernard Cheshire Home for Disability, where the idea was to be forced to equip people who've dropped out of formal education because of their disability and are not employable. So the idea was to give them the skills that they need to become employable again, financially independent. As part of Grow with Satori, we work with Periphery, who bring in transgenders from across the country, put them in either in Bangalore or in Pune, train them, coach them so that again they become employable and transgenders can also lead a respectable, financially independent life. And as Grow with Satori, we've also supported Sampark. That's an organization that works with migrant labor and their children. So we've supported them also. The latest feather in my cap is my book, that is Women Mavericks. It is available on Amazon. If anyone of you is interested, you can go and buy. It is a book by 9 women entrepreneurs who have written this book to share their journey of becoming an entrepreneur, the challenges they faced, how they overcame. Book that I cherish. It's been just a month since the book has been released, but and I am enjoying all the fame that I'm getting because of this book. So very happy to be a part of this journey. Since you are here, a couple of special offers that we announced. These are exclusive for the Leader Renew community. We run a 2-day workshop called as Empower, primarily catered to women leaders. And it's a 2-day kind of a workshop, morning to evening, all food, tea, coffee, training material, everything is catered to. It is a 12,000 program, but if you register now, of course, there is a 20% discount. We also have several testimonies from our previous participants. We used to do it as a 2-day residential workshop. We understood that women are unable to step away from their home for 2 full days, especially the night, those who have younger children. So this time, first time, we are experimenting with a non-residential workshop, and the prices are literally half of what the residential workshop used to be. And obviously, because our costs are coming down, and we would like to extend that benefit back to you. Over and above that, we also have a lot of programs that are available with the use of the HER20 discount coupon for all of you. And those programs are Leadership Launch, which is about first-time managers. What skills do they need to become amazing leaders? It's a series of 10 workshops with activities and assessments that help you hone the skill. Very similarly, landing your dream job. If you are out looking for a change, how do you prepare yourself to land the job of your dreams? And the third one, we are having a workshop which is working in a multi-generational workforce later this month. Again, comes to you at a 20% discount. The links to all of these will be shared in the text chat by Ishita. I look forward to seeing several of you at the workshop. With that, we jump right into our book, How Women Rise. Before I proceed, I'd like to know how many of us actually read the book. Can I see a show of hands? Partially read the book? Also, please put up your hands. Lovely. Lovely. So 4 or 5 of us have read the book. Lovely. Thank you. You can lower your hands. Truly appreciate. For those of you who have not read the whole book, this is still going to be beneficial because we are going to be sharing what we've learned and understood from the book. Funnily, I actually wrote a post also. I've read this book multiple times, and this time when I read, I think I found some newer insights, and I will focus on the newness that I discovered. But before I begin, anybody here wants to share what were their takeaways from the book that they read? Just unmute and speak. You can turn on your cameras also.
So Shanti, while I have read, I'm still in the process of, reading it. And while I have, looked at all of the habits and, going through them as well, I think, some of the examples that are shared are very striking from her life, and plus the ones that she had shared by interviewing other very senior leaders. So I think those are very striking, but at the same time, I will not be able to, kind of summarize everything at this point of time, because as I said,
what your couple of takeaways are, just share those. That's more than enough.
Maybe I'll write them down in the chat box because I'm still, of forming my ideas.
No worries. Yeah. And I see somebody put something. Oh, Vaishnavi has written about her takeaways about 9 months ago. So brilliant. We will look at it. Vaishnavi, you should put it up in the main group itself so that others can also read about your key takeaways. Anyone else?
It's appearing in the main page?
This is appearing in our chat. I'm talking about the Leader in Your WhatsApp group.
Oh, done.
Yeah. Hi Selva, welcome. Long time no see.
Yes.
Anyone?
I'm so glad.
Yeah. Oh my God, your throat.
Yes, looking forward to the. Yeah, looking forward to the session today, Shanti. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. Any other sharing? Preeti, go ahead.
Yeah. I think one eye-opener for me when I read this book, I think I read this a few months ago. Again, I did not read it line by line. I read, I think, first few pages in detail, and then I started skipping because I was very curious what the other habits are. So I think one that was an eye-opener for me is thinking doing well in your job is doing well in your career. I always thought, okay, if I have a productive day every single day and my manager is very happy with me, I'm doing well in my career. I think that really changed my perspective. I realized, okay, I need to see beyond it. I need to see a bigger picture. So I think that was
absolutely. That was my takeaway too in my first round. One was perfectionism, and this one were the two key takeaways from the first read. So totally agree.
Okay. then I think I also need to go do a few more reads. Maybe I'll have
Exactly. In fact, the habit of too much, I had a very different understanding this time. And I will share. Seema, Selva, if you've read the book, Ashwin, if you've read the book, please do share what your takeaways were.
I haven't read the book. I mean, I was about to start to read this book when I got it. And
okay.
I just got the PDF, and yes, 12 habits. I just went through this summary, and I know, I mean, there are so many things which made me realize, because I am the person who likes to acquire a new skill every day and want to learn a new skill every day. So a jack of all trades, like, but then mastering, yes, I don't know, but I enjoy doing it. I don't know. I felt at a point of time that I felt I could never be successful in my life, because I want to do a new thing every day. But one day I met a woman, and she told me that every person is unique, and you're unique because you want to learn a new thing every day. So how many people are doing that? So just think that you are unique and enjoy doing what you are doing. And
absolutely,
that stuck with me, and I'm still enjoying that ride of learning every new day, and that's my personality. I just don't know whether I should agree with the author or not, that we should specialize in one skill set. I think it really helps you if you specialize in one skill set.
Where did you get that idea of specializing in one skill set? Which particular habit? I'm curious.
I just read the thing which Vaishnavi posted, that that you have to specialize in one skill set. But definitely, from my outlook, I would say that I am enjoying what I do every day.
Yeah, and that's more important. So I will tell you how I understood that message, Seema. I did not understand that as you need to have one particular skill specialization. How I understood is that you need to have a niche. What will people know you for? You don't have to be the best in something, but what is it if people are thinking about, I need to get this done? Will your name pop up in their head because you've done that, you've showcased, you've been in those circles? That is how I read it as. So yeah, thanks for sharing that perspective. I think, see, same book, same lines, people can have different perspectives. Lovely.
I appreciate your perspective. I definitely feel that when somebody thinks of you, they should add something to you. Okay, this is the person I could go for this first thing, and that really matters. For me, I spread happiness, and that strikes with everyone. People feel positive in my company, and I'm happy.
That's more than enough. That's your niche.
Yeah. So that's my niche, and I have been doing that, and I feel when I'm able to support or help people to rise, that's my niche, and I have been doing that, and I'm so happy doing it. So
brilliant. I think that's exactly what Sally Helgesen meant, Seema. That's when she said that you need to hone and be known for something. I think that's exactly what she meant, and you also feel is right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Most welcome. So jumping into my read of the book. So first she starts by asking this question: how do you define success? And I think every time I've read this book and I've thought about what success means to me, the definition itself changes because of the life at that point in time, the responsibilities at that point in time, my financial stability at that point in time, and I don't know, so many other things. The first time I read it, I had just lost my mom. Yeah. So at that point in time, thinking about what success meant was to be mom to others who've lost moms. It sounded very different. Then after some time, I decided to quit my job. So then success meant setting up a business, starting something new and big. And now when I'm reading it again, I think success is like what Seema said, can I put a smile on a person's face because they feel they've learned, they feel they've achieved something. So I have found my definition of success change and evolve based on the time period and what's happening in my life at that point in time. How do you feel? What is your definition of success?
As you say, I mean, success is different for different person, and it's upon you. How do you define your success? As we, both of us have defined our success by spreading smiles and helping people to rise. So I think that's our success because we are happy doing that. It doesn't matter whether it's placed out in the world by a name that you're very successful in a way. I mean, getting awards and all that. But in a way, if you're if you're satisfied inside, I think that is your success.
Brilliant. Yeah. Preeti, Selva, Shweta, Vaishnavi, Shita, Ashwin, your views? How would you define success?
I came to actually learn about the book. This was my shortcut way of reading the book, actually.
Wonderful, welcome. Still, you can answer the question even without reading the book. How do you define success?
Right now, in the phase I am in, I'm kind of very confused. So, yeah, depends on the day you ask me. Some day it's mental peace, some day it's career success, some day it's family.
See, it is even changing by day. Yeah, thank you. Preeti, you were saying something?
I think I was also going to say the same. Success. I think small. I'm not able to think of a sentence for this. I think "Boond se sagar banta hai." I think it's very similar. Success in small pockets is what actually leads to bigger achievements. So I think that is what. If I'm if I set milestones for myself every week, every month, meeting them is success because that is all adding up for my long-term goal, etc. So
lovely. Yeah, and according to the book, Sally says that, avoid the one size fits all. And I think all of us are saying the exact same thing. What success means to somebody else need not be success to us. Yeah, and vice versa. What may give us joy and happiness not necessarily will give joy and happiness to another person. So it will look different, and that's absolutely fine. Aligning success with our own core values is very important, because if we are not living our values day in and day out, the gap between what we think we want to do and what we actually do will keep on widening. And based on these two, she asks us to reframe what success means. And you would have heard that quote, success is not a destination, it's a journey, it's a process. Considering success as a progress towards that meaningful something you want to achieve and become better at, continuously become better at it. That's how she recommends reframing success as. And it doesn't mean just because you are increasing your bar or changing the target doesn't mean you don't celebrate. Every milestone, every time you achieve your so-called success, in that moment you celebrate and you say, okay, now that I'm done this, let me now push forward and see how can I be a better version of myself. Letting go of others' expectations. And I think women, at least the ones who are in the Leader New group, I can actually see a lot of us not living the expectations of our parents, of our in-laws, of our spouses, of our children. We have our own expectations of ourselves, and I'm so proud of this particular group that I'm talking to right now. And know that, different phases in life, success will look different, and that's absolutely fine. Now let's also see how many habits we can recollect. Perfection, and not focusing on your career and focusing on the job. Two Preeti mentioned. Anybody else remembers any other habits?
Building and not leveraging. I was just reading it this morning.
Yeah, not leveraging the network, not creating a pool of allies. Thank you. What else?
Perfection trap.
Perfection trap. Okay, I feel like that. Let me show you what it is. Yeah. Okay, so these are the 12 habits that Sally Ellis mentions. One, we women believe that we should do a good job, but we shouldn't toot our own horn. And when people appreciate us, we should give away all that appreciation and the acknowledgement that we get. And we women are tend to using that language of we more. The moment people appreciate us, we say, oh, this was all team effort, everybody contributed. Without my manager, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Without my mom, without my sister, without my husband, I wouldn't have been able to do this. I think we are very easily, we give out the credit that's given to us. Funnily, while we do that, we also practice habit 2, where we will do good work and hope that our managers, our family members magically notice what we are doing and comment and compliment us for that. And we do get upset. Huh?
I want to share something here.
Yes,
Was
please.
this book, this habit, reluctance to claim our achievements, that actually glued me to the extent that I read the book to whatever I could. And it resonated me so well that it was this moment when I was reading about this habit and how to, I flipped some pages and see how to overcome this habit. That's when I realized the answer to a thank you is not a thank you. It's a you are welcome. And that was really, really funny for me, because for all these years, like, I was living a fact that answer to a thank you is a thank you. That's
Thank
all.
you for thanking me, huh?
Thank you for thanking me. That's so true.
Yeah. And habit 3 is, it's a known researched fact that women, when they apply for jobs and they see a list of 10 requirements, only if they meet 8 plus of the requirements will they apply. Whereas men will apply even if they meet 50% of the requirements, say, okay, rest of it I will learn. These are all learnable skills. But women also tied to the perfectionism trap that, they really want to be good at it before putting up the hand and saying, I want to try it and I want to practice this or do this particular job. Building rather than leveraging relationships. So women are very empathetic by nature. Women are, the way they connect with others, it's a God's gift that they are able to connect with others so beautifully well. But there is also this hesitation in leveraging relations. The word leverage, I think, caught my attention there, that somehow leverage seems very selfish. So even while I was reading the book, that word, I was so wanting to replace that word leverage with something more kinder, but I couldn't find a word that meant exactly leverage. It is leverage, and that I could not find a better word than leverage. And if any one of you has a better word that means leverage but doesn't sound as selfish as leverage, I would love to embrace that new habit of, not only building but also seeking help, asking support, and connecting. Failing to enlist allies, I think I have been very poor at it in the initial days of my career, until a sponsor identified me and jolted me and said, Shanti, what are you doing? And that's when I realized, oh, you're supposed to have allies in the corporate world. That came to me as a surprise. Realized that there were no people at the moderation meetings talking about me apart from my manager, and that was not doing good to my career. So until a sponsor pointed this out, by the time I had this book, I don't think even existed at that point in time. So my sponsor told me that, I want you to tell me what you're doing. I want you to tell this. He was my previous manager and I changed teams, and he was still so passionately following what I did. He said, there was nobody talking about you. I said, why should somebody else talk about me? So I think I really learned my lesson the hard way, but I'm glad I did. Putting your job before your career, Preeti told, right? A lot of women feel if they're doing a good job and the manager pats their back for the day saying you did a great job, everything is fine, everything is rosy. It is not. Our aim should be career. Where do we want to be in 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And whatever we are doing today, is it aligned? Is it going to take us there? Are we on the right path, or are we on a beautiful path but not the right path? So only focusing on the job puts us on a very beautiful path, maybe not the right path. The right path, which is the career path, may not be all that beautiful. Just remembering that and proceeding. Perfection trap, I think the way we are brought up, the way we are encultured to be good moms, good sisters, good daughters, good wives, good daughter-in-laws, good everything. pushes us into that perfection trap. I find it very difficult, despite having given so many talks, lectures, sessions. When I know I am choosing not to be perfect at this moment, it hurts somewhere, but it is a conscious hurt that I accept and say, okay, it is what it is. This is how I am going to be. This is who I am going to be in this moment. But that thought is still there. Even after so many years, that thought hasn't gone, and I can totally understand women who haven't been through that journey. For them, not achieving perfection can be very disastrous. Disease to please, again, wanting to keep everyone happy. And unfortunately, in that everyone, in the initial years, I myself was not there in that everyone. Now, I still have the disease to please, but I am also one of those people who I have to please. That's the small change I've been able to make. Minimizing, I have overcome this habit. It's a funny thing that my name got changed because of me not talking, because of me being quiet, because of me not crying as a child and demanding what I needed. So my maternal grandmom actually changed my name to Shanti, and I don't know who I was telling, either Vaishnavi or Preeti. I've been sharing this story that, that every time people would see me increase my volume or speak up, they'll say, hey, you're not living up to your name. You are Shanti, you can't talk. And I would say, okay, I have to live up to my name and become Shant again. I think I've overcome this habit. I am no more Shant. My uncles call me Ashanti, and I'm like, okay, so be it. I am Ashanti. So I don't minimize myself. I don't hesitate to put up my hand. I don't hesitate to try. I don't hesitate to take risks. And I don't hesitate to ask for the seat at the table, saying, I want to be one of the decision makers in this project, in this team, whatever. Too much. This is the habit that I completely had a very different understanding. Earlier, to me, it meant women verbalize too much. They keep explaining. This time when I read the book, I think it is also tied to the over preparation that we do, over explaining to ourselves that we do to prove that we are perfect, we will be able to please others, we are overvaluing expertise. I think all of those habits lead us to practicing too much, which is over preparing, over processing, over indulging, and hence for a small thing we have to give a long explanation. I'm learning how not to be too much, but I don't think I've achieved. Ruminating, basically dwelling in the past, mistakes, conflicts, tough conversations. They do come back. I won't say I've overcome it, but I've been able to deal with it and move forward. Letting your radar distract you. I'm very fortunate that my radar itself is shrinking. My kids are older, they are completely independent, they don't need me anymore. So they are off my radar. I wouldn't have been able to say that, say 5-7 years ago, when my kids were much younger, my parents were getting older and sicker. I wouldn't have been able to say this back then, but then both my in-laws are not there, my mom is not there, my father is touch wood healthy so far. So that radar for me is shrinking, so hence my distractions are also shrinking. But I know a lot of you have a long journey before you get there. So I'll just pause here to see which of these habits is holding you back. You can just put in the number or call out which of the habits is holding you back from achieving your full potential.
I think number 6, a lot of times I've seen that, putting the job before the career, because, everything seems so important and urgent that needs to be done, and growing in the role itself also means that you have to be at it more than 70 hours sometimes. But
up to 90 hai, up to 90.
Yeah, up to 90 ho gaya benchmark, yes.
Sure.
But definitely in that rush, I think I compromise. How do I otherwise take out time, because I give it all to the job before the career then. because I have to manage it somehow, balance it somehow. I think therefore number 6 is something that I really relate with.
Thank you, Shweta. Selva, habit number 10. It's called as too much. It is basically women tend to over-prepare, over-explain, overshare when trying to communicate, which actually dilutes the essence of their message.
Thank you. Then it's me.
Perfection trap. 4, 5, and 8. Preeti, Seema, 10, 9, and wonderful. Now that you know what habit is holding you back, if you can remember anything that you learned from the book in terms of it showed able to claim. Anything you remember? How can you overcome this habit of unable to claim achievements?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Till now, I'm unable to claim the achievement of my kids. I mean, they have done exceptionally well in their career, in their studies and all that. But whenever people speak of that, I just say, oh, it's their hard work and they made it. But I am never able to add that to my achievement list. I said, thinking of it's their achievement. Being a mom.
Yeah.
I could never accept that, okay, it is their journey, it is their achievement, and what am I? I'm just a mom. So, what is my entity over there? And there, I just lag behind, and I think I should start claiming that, okay, I have worked hard, or maybe I was an influencing person, or behind the scenes helping them to reach to the levels where they have reached. And
lovely.
I should start doing that, and this is the thing which I'm learning from here, and I should really try to claim my achievement for that.
Absolutely. And stop saying I am just a mom. You are a mom. You don't have to use that word just at all.
Yeah,
the fact that you are a mom itself is the contribution. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, just a word is not to be applied over there. It's too much. Yeah.
See?
Thank you so much. So for me, I like still now it's difficult for me to accept it, and but slowly then I have realized, well, I was there in that journey guiding them, and that is my achievement. I could really claim it. So why
Absolutely.
not? Yeah.
Absolutely. I supported them. I encouraged them. I motivated them. I was there when they needed me most. That's your
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, actually, she says,
thank you.
Thank you. That's exactly what she says in the book. When somebody appreciates you, do not say, you know what, it is all their effort. They put it, and don't give it away, but rather say thank you and full stop. Don't try and explain your thank you and say, thank you, but thank you, however. Stop. Just say thank you and just absorb it. That's what actually, yes.
That's a great thing. That's going to be a great takeaway for me for today.
Wonderful. Anyone else?
Shanti, not related to unable to claim achievements, because Selva also asked about too much, and you did share about how this understanding has changed after you reread the book. Even I have a different perspective now. Now, in the sense, in the recent past, when I reflected on too much, because too much, according to the book, is sharing too much, disclosing too much, letting others see through your emotions, or in fact, even giving a long explanation to why am I doing, what am I doing. What I think is women generally tend to do this a lot, but sometimes I also feel it's because we expect them to reciprocate a similar behavior. We would like to know what is it that they have in their mind, what is the context behind their actions. When we are willing to share, we would want them to demonstrate the same. Again, the question is, do we really need to know? That is debatable. But somehow I feel this too much comes because we also expect them to be sharing all that they have in their minds as context, as to why they've been doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's their choice. They can choose to share, they can choose not to share.
Agree. but we do it expecting them to do the same. I think that is why we as women have been demonstrating this habit of sharing too much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I agree with you, Vaishnavi. Even the sharing too much comes quite because we being emotional creatures, I would say that we want that people listen to our emotional turmoil or whatever is going within us, and we are quite open. Like compared to men, we would like to share our emotions and what journey we are going through, and it's I think, but
Yeah.
it comes very naturally to women. But we should stop sharing too much. That's the thing which we
Yeah.
should understand.
Share whatever is necessary, appropriate in that setting. If I'm, meeting my best friend after 15 years, and I'm spending a night out with her, of course I'm going to be sharing everything that happened in the last 15 years. That's a different thing. But in a professional setup, knowing where to stop and how to stop, I think, is something we all have to learn.
And also
Yeah,
not being, not letting people know your weakest point, because when you are too open, people come to know your weak points, and that could be
then they
could be
take
taken
advantage.
against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are
It's not-
serving it on a platter and offering lelo.
Yeah, serving it on a platter and offering it to them. So, we should be aware of that. Quite true.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, when we see depression and loneliness around, where people are not sharing, sometimes sharing does lead to helping out people, because when we share our journey, they realize, okay, they are
Brilliant.
not alone in that journey. There are people who are going through the same thing.
Lovely. And that's
how
where
they
the
have overcome.
network comes into play. So where
Yeah.
she says is, in a professional setup, know how much to share, but that does not mean not have a network. So in your network, you can have those select few with whom you will share, and you will not be judged for it. You know that if I share with this person, they're just going to listen to me and accept me for who I am, whatever I'm sharing. They will not say, oh, that was not the right action, you did that wrong, oh, I would do this in this place. So without any judgment, they're just going to listen to me and be that sounding board. If I ask a question, they will respond. So she also talks about this, that when we don't share at all, of course it will lead to depression. And in fact, I read research last year that men are more depressed than women and are more prone to heart attacks because of depression, primarily because they are taught from childhood not to share, whereas women are taught how to share. So naturally we are sharers and men are not. And of course we don't want to embrace that masculine side where we stop sharing. Totally with you, Seema.
Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, unable to claim achievements, she uses that phrase, own your success. And I've tried to capture that one phrase for all of it. She says, practice, just say thank you. Don't say anything beyond this. One tip that she mentions is the wins journal. So basically, capture all your wins on a daily basis. Keep writing them down, listing them down, that these are my wins. And, whenever you are feeling low, that comes in very handy. It gives you that vocabulary to talk about your accomplishments when in need. Practice speaking about your accomplishments, achievements in front of the mirror without over explaining or downplaying both of it. So basically uses those words. Don't use just, if I may, those phrases she asks us to avoid. And reframe self-promotion as sharing a value rather than bragging. So self-promotion is not bragging, rather this is the way I am adding value in this journey. The next habit is expecting others to notice and reward. Anybody remembers how to overcome this, or what have you done to overcome this? I think our discussions are far more valuable than what the book said. We can quickly see what the book said, but how will you practice this? How can you be okay and tell people, this is what I've done and I need appreciation for this?
I think this is a very
I think
hard... So sorry, go on.
Yeah, okay. So I think, right from our childhood, also, especially in our context, I'm saying, how we are conditioned and brought up right from our childhood is that wait for you to be praised and rewarded and acknowledged by others, and don't go ahead and start claiming it yourself. Let
Yes.
others acknowledge you before you acknowledge yourself. In fact, there is no concept of acknowledging yourself in our culture. But at least where
Yes.
I grew up, Shanti, I never saw that.
Yeah.
And without the fear of being judged, I think my I was told categorically by my mother also that do not claim it, let them see it and come forward. And there's a phrase also that she used to say, but the bottom line is that in our scriptures, in our context, in the way we are brought up, it is always said that wait for the others to come forward and acknowledge you, and therefore we never got that opportunity to acknowledge ourselves, and the natural thing that we do is wait for somebody else to notice us and reward us, because that is far more rewarding internally and externally.
It definitely is rewarding. It definitely is rewarding.
Exactly, and therefore
Yeah.
it's very difficult to break that.
Yes.
But I think this is what I'm learning over a period of time, that how do we ensure that we are not expecting others to do it, but actually taking the first step forward and towards it. Because if we kind of don't toot our own horns, without bragging, like how you said, that talk about your values, how you have done it, and what are some of the things that you have been able to do, and how it has impacted others as well. So when you're talking about those aspects, I think it moves away from blowing your own horn to talk more about the values.
And exactly what she says, advocate for yourself. Yeah. Preeti, you had something to share. And thank you, Seema, for turning on. Can we all turn on our cameras for 10 seconds? We'll just screen capture and know who all joined. And Preeti, you can continue what you wanted to share.
I think I was thinking of the quote that we were taught as kids: "Karm karo, phal ki ichha mat karo."
Chinta mat karo.
Exactly. So I think very culturally that is how we've all been brought up, and I think it is actually frowned upon when women expect appreciation for anything that they do. I think that's a culture at home. It's default your responsibility when you do it, but when
Absolutely.
men do even like a small thing at home, it's really glorified. And I think it's culture. It's simple culture.
It is culture.
Yeah.
Funnily, Preeti, I am a lot into reading and taking courses on Indic wisdom these days, and I had this exact same question to my teacher, and his response was, "Karm karo, phal ki chinta mat karo," is while during the karm, and talking about your karm is not chinta of the phal. It is telling people this is what I did. So that gave me a different perspective. Oh, we've understood the phrase itself so differently, that karm karo, phal ki chinta mat karo means.
What you said?
Sure.
Can you just repeat what you said, Shanti?
Yeah. So he said, karm karo, phal ki chinta mat karo is applicable while you are doing the work. Do it to the best of your intentions and ability. Don't worry about the results. But later on, you have to talk about the karma that you did. What you did has to be spoken about. That does not mean you are worried about the result.
So true.
So
I agree with
beautiful.
that.
No, I
That
was
you
like,
have to
wow.
speak for yourself. Because unless you
Yeah.
speak, people are not going to give you credit. So it's better that you know
Yeah.
that you have worked for it. Maybe you didn't get the results, but you have given your 100%. So we should do
So
that.
true.
And I totally am into it that yes, do talk to people what you are doing and what you have done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that resonated, sat well with me. When I'm talking about my karma, doesn't mean I'm talking about the phal that I want. I'm just saying what I did. And I'm like, take it. Okay, now I understand. There's so much depth in all these words and phrases, and unfortunately, there were not people who could tell us what this meant, and whatever meaning we made of it, we lived with it. Okay, overvaluing. I think the answer only showed, but all right. Overvaluing expertise. How can we not do this?
I think this would come when we reflect on things we've been able to do well. I think it's very important to reflect on what I did at work maybe in the last 1 month or once in 3 months. That gives us a lot of confidence to understand because even when you're working in a task where maybe you have expertise, there are a lot of things you learn on the job.
Yeah.
And I think when you reflect on what you've been able to achieve, on the good and the bad feedback you've got from your clients, can be your team members, it gives us a lot of confidence that okay, so even if I know only 50% of a new task, I can still raise my hand and volunteer and take it up. I think that's
and we are very good at this when it is personal stuff. We never say, no, I have to marry at least 5 times before I finally marry. Do we ever say that? We want to build expertise in marriage before we marry. We don't know. It's such a big risk.
I would love to say that I would like to try that 5 times before knowing the right person.
Yeah. And we take such a big risk and say, okay, we will figure things out. But somehow that confidence doesn't come at work. No, I want to be that perfection trap also, that I want to be really good at what I'm doing. Only then I can apply, only then I can grow. Very true, very true.
Motherhood is also one such. Unless you become a mother, you
really... पांच बार mother बन के फिर पक्का mother बनो. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So true, so true. Yeah, so what Sally Helgesen says, instead of just mastering skills, build your network, because they will actually represent you in forums and talk about your skills. Even if you are not 100% skilled, they will talk about your potential to learn and grow. She says, say yes to stretch roles, put yourself in uncomfortable, risky situations, even at work, not just in personal life, and speak up in meetings even if you don't feel 100% prepared. And it is okay to say, I have a thought here and I want to validate, and then just say, don't use tentative language. I may be wrong. It's my 2 cents. All of this are minimizing language. Of course, she talks about it in minimizing, but I'm relating the two. She says, don't use minimizing language when you're representing yourself. Yeah. The next, I don't know why this animation is working very ridiculously. Building rather than leveraging relationships. Any tips and ideas?
I would love to share my experience of this. In fact, I was a very poor, leverage of relationships earlier, because there has been instances where I tried approaching people and then it didn't work out the way I wanted to. That's when I realized there's another way to do it, just like our marketing push versus pull strategy. I started letting people know what I do, letting people know how my organization supports people, and then I started seeing people asking me for information. And then slowly I started giving more inputs on, hey, this is what we do. If you would love to know more, feel free to contact me or some other person whose details I'm willing to share. So there are 2 things. One is, how do I keep this separate? Because these people are people who are very close to me personally, and I do not want that relation to be impacted, which is why we generally avoid getting into all of these, right? So what I do is I keep those 2 channels separate. If I'm going to communicate with them personally, I never talk about this when I'm talking to them. If WhatsApp is my mode of communication with them personally, I'm not going to talk about this through WhatsApp. All of this will happen through emails, formal email chains, where I continuously have those communication happening, so that I keep the 2 separate. And when I see the person, neither of us feel embarrassed or weird that I will have to bring this up. What if I do not want to talk about this?
Yeah, that's a lovely tip. Thank you for sharing, Vaishnavi. Keeping different especially with the person is close to you, you have a personal relationship, you also have a professional relationship, to keep those as separate and treat them separately. Brilliant. Thank you.
So anything this else? Also means we always feel it's building rather than leveraging relationships.
Focusing. So women build on building relationships, but we don't leverage relationships. That's what this is.
Okay.
So this our Facebook will say 700 friends, 7,000 friends. But how many of them have we reached out to seek help, support? Hardly any. So we'll have large networks, lots of connections, but we don't reach out to them for help.
That is so true. That's the women nature,
Yeah.
that we do have a large network, but we don't seek, and we just want to portray ourselves that we can handle everything.
We can handle everything.
Yeah. So it's really important that we reach out and to the people whom we can think, those who are going to be really helpful to us for support and guidance. I can share an example of mine. I was just going to give up a presentation, being a coach, and I was in a big group of people in the on the FICCI podium, and I just sat down, and there was a young boy sitting next to me, and I just asked him, "See, this is the thing I'm going to say on the podium. Is it all right?" The person whom I knew nothing about, and he just looked at me and my speech, and he said, "One thing you have to talk about is about your smile. You spread smile, and just keep that you have to say about your smile." And I was so confused. I said, "How can I talk about my smile? That my smile makes wonders and lights up the room and all that." He said, "No, this is your USP, and you have to say that." And he insisted, and when I went on the podium and I spoke about it, I felt so nice that okay, I could speak about myself. So it's okay to reach out to the people whom you have known or unknown, but sometimes you get those advice from these people that really helps you out, right?
Absolutely. So brilliant. So brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think we all have to learn how to ask for help, create both mentors and sponsors. Preeti, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
I've always had this, not always, I still have this problem. How do I ask someone to be my sponsor? Mentor, everybody is, help, everybody is me, but sponsor is somebody who actually goes and speaks on behalf of you at work. So
absolutely. I am going to share on our WhatsApp group one brilliant video on enlisting sponsors. I came across it very, very recently. Such an amazing video that, how can you ask somebody to be your sponsor? Of course, it starts with building a relationship first. Yeah.
Right.
And even if it's a sponsor, you need to have something to offer to that person. Why will somebody sponsor you? So think of that when you're reaching out to a sponsor. Somebody says, okay, please promote Preeti to a director level. If somebody is going to be talking about you in a large forum, what is it meant for them? Something you have to think and be prepared to offer them, saying that I would like you to be my sponsor because this is what I can do for you. And here are the places where I would like you to, represent me. I don't have a representation in that at that table. So I would like you to represent me, and you tell me what other information you need. You tell me how can I equip you to talk about me in that forum. Lovely video.
I'm thinking of politicians who are asking for donations.
Ayo. But this is genuine, huh? It is.
See, I will do this. I will pass your bill, but just you give me money.
So it is, relationship is actually a two-way thing, and that's what I think we miss. And if we keep giving, we don't receive, it is not a relationship. If we keep receiving, the other person will withdraw, saying, I'm the only giver here, there is no receiving for me, and they will again quit. I think it has to be that two ways. Of course, if they grow you, groom you, I'm sure there is enough benefit. So they can proudly say, I have impacted X number of people's lives and careers. There is a lot in it for them too, but you need to first position it in a way that they realize it. And then I will share that video in our WhatsApp.
Okay. I have another question. Sorry if I'm digressing from the topic.
No. Please go ahead.
Okay. So now I'll just tell you, I don't know if that person actually qualifies as a sponsor or not. So recently, one of my ex-colleagues who's joined elsewhere, not a same stream, he's moved to a different stream of work altogether, called me and he said there is an opening in another firm and I think you are going to be a best fit. I'm going to send your, are you interested? I said, I am. So he said, okay, I'm sending your profile. to the direct CEO because he knows the CEO really well, and I think you fit this. So I had not reached out to him. He was a friend, a colleague, in fact, from another team. So we used to collaborate a lot for programs, and he would really appreciate what I'm doing a lot of times. And a lot of times I had, when he was stuck, he would immediately call me and I would help him out. Though he was senior to me, he was new to the edtech space. So I didn't realize. I don't know. Does he qualify as a sponsor? I'm not sure.
He is a sponsor. He is sponsoring your position in that new organization, but it is not a sponsor that you have enlisted. He has assumed the role of a sponsor because of the relationship you have built, and that's what I was saying. Building relationships is the first step. Sponsorship might automatically happen if they don't realize. You can put up your hand and seek for that sponsorship.